What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Running Gold Standard Podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, first home game of the season, Sunday Night Football. How are you feeling about the 49ers taking on the Green Bay Packers tomorrow night?
Ironically enough, the 49ers' first home game is going to be the first week in my new home for the NFL, so I'm really looking forward to it. Let's jump right into it, man.
Yes, sir. You guys missed Matt. He wasn't here for the recap last week. Matt is back. I'm feeling good. I was talking to you before we went live right now. I was a little nervous just because you can never count out Aaron Rodgers 100%. He is a dangerous man. But their starting left tackle, obviously, David Bakhtiari is out for the season, and their backup is going to be out, or he's doubtful at least. So Nick Bosa, is he going to have like a career day tomorrow? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think they ruled him out today.
Okay.
Actually, they reported he was going to be out today. I mean, they're going to have to double Nick Bosa. I mean, it'd be silly not to. So if they're doing that, then you have to look at D Ford and some of those other guys on the defensive line getting ready to eat, because Aaron Rodgers might be in trouble. He's not the Aaron Rodgers of 8 years ago that can just escape pressure at the drop of a hat and, get you some runs and stuff like that. Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked, to me, particularly impressive this year. So when you factor that in with what the 49ers have going on the defensive line, I mean, it could be another 49ers blowout in terms of the 49ers being a physical team and the Packers being a little bit finesse, as they always are. I just don't, you let Jameis Winston throw for 5 touchdown passes on you, and you let Detroit go into a halftime with a lead on you. I don't know, man. That's a little suspect to me. So in my mind, this should be, if the 49ers come out and do what they're supposed to do, this is easy sledding for them in a primetime game on Sunday night.
All right. I like that. Jimmy is feeling hyped up. I saw he posted, it's party like it's 1994. We're going to see those beautiful red throwback jerseys finally.
Oh, can't wait.
I'm so excited, man. I think there's a lot that is heading towards the 49ers way so far going into Sunday night. But at the end of the day, you still got to do your job, and I hope the 49ers go ahead and do that. While you're here, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers so we give away a 49ers jersey. If you're watching on Twitter, hit the follow button. We just reached 10.5 thousand followers. Help us get to our next goal of 11,000. Really appreciate all of you guys. There's so much, Matt. There's just so much I'm excited about going into this game. Yeah. But I do think Jimmy historically has, take away that NFC Championship game where he threw like 4 passes the whole game. I'm joking, but it wasn't that great. Historically has played all right against the Packers. How are you feeling about his performance tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with the run game, because we have some running backs that are out. Raheem Mostert not playing. Elijah Mitchell looks like he's going to be closer to a game time decision. And even if he does play, that shoulder could be a factor. Trey Sermon, was it a concussion? Was it not? I've heard conflicting reports. He's expected to be able to go, but the fact that they're activating Kerryon Johnson off of the practice squad speaks volumes to me. And I think that if they don't have that extra avenue with the running game, there could be an issue here, and Jimmy's going to have to perform. This is the first game on the schedule that I truly feel like is going to make a difference between whether we see Jimmy for the long term, or maybe now we start to feather in Trey Lance if Jimmy Garoppolo struggles a little bit. He didn't look great against Philadelphia. He missed multiple throws that an NFL quarterback has to make. I know Kyle came out and said Jimmy can make all the throws flat-footed and he can do all this stuff and try to make excuses for him. That's coach speak. I know Kyle's looking at the film going like, man, you cannot miss Mohamed Sanu on a 3rd down like that. You can't lead Trent Sherfield completely out of bounds when he has 3 yards on the defender. You can't throw that pass to Ayuk. I know McGlinchey got beat, and I know it was a tough throw, but you airmailed that should have been picked off. Game 2 for the 49ers against Philadelphia was the prime example of the issues that the fan base has with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I know the Boo Birds were out. I know that everybody who was looking for Trey Lance was out in that regard. if the running game is not there because we're decimated at the running back position and Jimmy has to carry the squad, if he falters for even a second, mark my words, Trey Lance is going to be in the game sooner rather than later.
I love it. Mina Kimes of ESPN, she was talking about it as well, and she was saying, look, Green Bay is not great at stopping these runs out on the perimeter. Trey Lance, that's kind of his strength, at least it was in North Dakota State. We've yet to see that from Kyle and Trey since he's been with the Niners. However, this is something I think the 49ers should look to exploit because they could really do some damage when they put Trey in there sporadically. All of the Jimmy fans out there that ride for Jimmy, I'm not saying pull Jimmy 100% and put Trey in there, but you got to supplant someplace just to get that spark that was desperately needed last week. Real quick, Mac, I didn't get a chance to ask you because you weren't here during the recap. Did you think the reason that Trey didn't play against the Eagles was just because it was such a close game? Kyle didn't want to risk, a potential huge mistake altering the game?
That's tough to say. It's not like Jimmy was being a world beater and you couldn't absolutely put Trey in there. I don't know. It's tough for me. I think that Kyle thought that he was going to skate by Philadelphia without having to do too much. And then when it became a closer game than what he expected, he hadn't really planned for Trey to be in there. So it became a situation where you don't want to just throw him in there willy-nilly without a plan in place. It's easy to put them in there and go, oh, Trey Lance is going to run a read option. But part of the reason why Trey Lance is going to be effective, especially with these packages, is they're going to have him throw as well as run. And if Kyle didn't design any passes for Trey, maybe just throwing him in there on runs, not super effective, We knew that Raheem Mostert wasn't going to be in the game, but we thought, Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, JaMychal Hasty, that's going to be enough. And all three of those guys sustained some sort of injury in that game. Scariest one for me being the Trey Sermon. I mean, how many times did his head get hit on that one play? I mean, his head looked like a pinball. And to see him on the ground just literally grasping his head and in pain was worrying to me. And I kind of worry about that this weekend. And it's why, maybe you let Kerryon Johnson, sacrificial lamb or whatever. If Kyle is anything like his father, Kerryon Johnson should be fine. But I mean, I just don't think that there was enough of a cushion there to kind of let Lance get in there. And maybe it was Kyle thinking, I don't want him to make a mistake. But at the same time, I just thought that maybe he thought Jimmy Garoppolo in the running game was going to be enough. So this week, I expect him to get a little bit more in there. Maybe put Debo in the backfield. I know Melissa had commented on that earlier. Maybe, Debo lines up at running back. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm sure they're going to run plenty of those, those jet sweeps and those little shovel passes forward that count as forward passes that are essentially, sweeps. But they have to do something. Jimmy Garoppolo on his own, I just don't know. Even with a Packers defense that's not particularly great, in this type of game, you want to go out there and you want to, put the screws to them as early as you can, get out of there with a win. It's the debut of the 94 Red Throwbacks for this season. They're going to be hyped up for the home opener. You want to see them come out and get to a quick start. So you just get your playmakers in position to succeed. If Trey Lance is able to play, that's fantastic. But all eyes are going to be on Jimmy Garoppolo because I do think that this is going to be a critical juncture for him going forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Last weekend was tough, and watching Jimmy struggle for whatever the case is. I know everyone's favorite, Grant Cohn. Everyone's been talking about is Ayuk in the doghouse. Grant Cohn made the argument that he's in Jimmy's doghouse, and that's why we haven't seen anything because Kyle is scheming for Ayuk. And I don't know what it is, but Jimmy Garoppolo just wasn't throwing the ball his way aside from one or two passes. We're going to need to see Jimmy Put
I don't
whatever that
even
is
think that
aside.
I don't think that Ayuk is in his doghouse. I just don't think that Ayuk is running routes that Jimmy's great at throwing.
That's fair.
You know, I think Ayuk is a great route runner outside of the numbers.
Yeah.
And Debo is better in between the numbers. And there's a reason why through the first 2 weeks Debo is the NFL is just because he gets open in the middle of the field areas where that's not necessarily Ayuk's forte. Ayuk wants to work from hash to sideline. And you know, Jimmy doesn't throw outside of the numbers. So, you know, there's no it's not a coincidence that Ayuk got most of his yards when Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't in there. And so I don't think it's necessarily a doghouse situation. It's, you know, just everybody knows. If you look, I think Jack Hammer on Twitter posted it. It was Jimmy Garoppolo's his distribution chart for his throws and his completions. And I mean, you get the whole field within 5 to 7 yards. And then after that, it's literally just a block in the center of the field where Jimmy Garoppolo will throw the ball. Outside of that, you know, heave it up and pray to Deebo Samuel in game 1. You know, this is you're posting a bit of a, you know, a plain Jane version of it, but like, I mean, he doesn't throw anything beyond. I mean, you're looking 10 yards plus outside of the numbers. He hasn't thrown anything, and it's just one of those things where, you know, it's pretty limiting to an offense when you don't get a spray chart outside of those things. I don't know. I feel like Jimmy is so limited that Ayuk is not going to get his just due until they switch quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's fair. Jimmy's the type of guy, and I think that's why Deebo kind of fits in so well to what Jimmy does. It's these short passes that you let the receiver, you know, yak bros. That became a thing for a reason because these receivers were getting the ball and running with it, and that's kind of Jimmy's forte. Whereas Ayuk is way more of a true deep threat receiver with that speed. I see we have a super chat here. Thank you, Tehran. He says, I'd like to see Kyle Juszczyk more involved too. He was called offensive weapon and paid $27 million, and he's barely used. It's a little head scratching that Kyle's creativity hasn't gotten him more touches. What do you think of that, Matt?
Yeah, the Kyle Juszczyk thing has always been a little bit of a. It seems like he'll go like 2 weeks where he gets heavy usage. I know last year, or I'm sorry, not last year, 2019 when we went to the home opener against Pittsburgh. I mean, he had a lot of passes up. He was catching wheel routes out of the backfield. I know on one, he kind of took a helmet-to-helmet hit that he brought the ball down. There was another one where he caught a pass where he just stiff-armed the crap out of Minkah Fitzpatrick and kind of just, you know, slammed him into the dirt. But then you go, you know, 3 weeks without hearing anything from him. It's weird how they use him, and you would think that Kyle would be able to utilize a guy like Kyle Juszczyk a little more than he does, but I just don't know. I don't know what their plan is for him at any given moment. And I think that Kyle Juszczyk could be a mismatch for linebackers out of the backfield, but they just don't seem to use him like that. And it's unfortunate because I feel like they have missed opportunities there. And they have ample time to kind of make use of him, but they just don't seem to want to do it consistently.
It is weird. He's such a mismatch. There's really no players like him in the NFL, and the 49ers have him. And just like Terrence said, paid him $27 million, and he's barely used. I mean, at some point, you're going to have to say, okay, let's get our money's worth with this guy who's good at what he does. Instead of simply just being a lead blocker out there, you could find plenty good fullbacks that are just good at blocking, but you have Juszczyk because he's good at receiving, he's good at running. He's a good threat out of the backfield. I always think of that like wheel route that he ran against the Seahawks in week 17 of the 2019 season. That was a perfect example of what Juszczyk can do. So I would love to see him get more involved. It seems like when Juszczyk is more involved, Kyle's kind of on fire calling plays, and he's in his rhythm. He's really in his zone, and that's what we need to see more of. Joey Arredondo added, I heard on Better Rivals Pod that Ayuk has run verticals 43% of it on his routes. Wow. Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Jimmy's not going to hit that.
Yeah, that's a lot of fly routes.
Yeah. Melissa asked, do you think Jimmy Garoppolo can actually take advantage of the Kevin King weakness? And if so, who is the wide receiver you want to see torch him?
I think it's going to be more of the same. Deebo Samuel's going to be the guy that he goes to because of the nature of how he throws the ball and where he wants to throw the ball. But at the same time, I think that this Packers team is going to be weak against tight ends. And so, to me, more so than anything, I think that George Kittle's going to have a really good game, if that makes sense.
I like that. I think that Kittle, it's kind of like similar to what I said about Kyle and Juice. Jimmy and Kittle, once Jimmy's playing well, usually Kittle's playing well. My question for you, Matt, do we continue to see another almost 100-yard or 100-plus yard game from Deebo? You talked about him earlier. Does that continue? Does that trend continue going into tomorrow?
I think that teams are going to start keying in on Deebo and wanting to make Jimmy beat them in a different way. And if you want to bring it up, I just sent you the tweet that I saw with the NFL Next Gen stats that show Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of his spray chart this season. That just shows you where he wants to throw the ball. And as we get further into the season and the sample size gets bigger and teams have more time to do their due diligence, I think they're going to be able to take that away a little more. And if you look at the spray chart, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Jimmy Garoppolo, beyond 8 yards of the line of scrimmage, is really looking towards the middle of the field, and that's about it. Yeah. Outside of that, he had the one big pass to Deebo Samuel again, which was kind of like in the face of pressure, and Deebo had man-to-man coverage on the outside. So that's one of those, like, you kind of close your eyes and throw it up and see what happens. And it just turned out to be a touchdown pass, which is great for the team. But at the same time, I mean, you're talking 20 yards past the line of scrimmage. He has 2 attempts this year. I don't know that's enough to get it done. And if teams start keying on Deebo Samuel over the middle, they're going to have to go in a different direction, because I just don't think that works the same way that you would want it to. If you take away Deebo Samuel, you're going to have to start finding different avenues to get the ball, whether that's Ayuk on maybe more curl routes, maybe 43% running vertical. You start having him cut those routes a little short, but it gets to be really difficult when it just looks like your quarterback is so limited in where he wants to go with the ball.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And I'm going to ask a question that I already know the answer to. Is it Kyle or is it Jimmy with no deep shots? Because they're getting dialed up. Jimmy's just not taking them, right?
It's Jimmy. Yeah. He's not going to throw that ball. Again, if we're talking about Ayuk running 43% of his routes are vertical route and Jimmy's not targeting that, how much of that is Ayuk maybe not beating his guy versus how much of that is Ayuk is a decoy for somebody else to do something? Oh man, they're running this defense. Let's take one of these corners out of the equation by running Ayuk deep. Spy Nick Danger has it perfectly. Verticals, clearing out. They're clearing out a DB to work the middle of the field towards one side or the other. So if you have Deebo on the right side of the formation, Ayuk on the left side of the formation, run Ayuk on a vertical to take that cornerback out, so that when Deebo runs across the formation, he's got more yak yardage coming up when he catches the ball. Sometimes that'll work, but as teams key in on that more and more, it's going to be up to Jimmy to make those throws. And if he can't do that, let's start looking at Trey Lance coming in. I know the fan base is itching for it. I'm itching for it. I just don't see the positives that Jimmy gives you over a Trey Lance in the long term. I mean, week 1, okay, a couple of weird things happen. George Kittle bounces one off his face mask. Deebo Samuel has a fumble on a catch that was for a first down that could have locked it up. Okay, they came back in that game. That's something you can kind of look at. But a 17-11 win over an Eagles team, which outside of that 91-yard catch and run on that pass, really didn't do much. And on that drive, they didn't get any points off that 91 yards. So to only win by 6, I don't know, man. I'm not impressed by that. And so when you're going into week 3 and now you've gotten out of the easy part, you did your job. You got to 2-0. That's all the team, that's all the fan base, that's all the team really wanted, that's all Kyle wanted. Get to 2-0. Now we're to Green Bay. Now we're to a team, okay, they have potential playoff aspirations. After that, I mean, we're looking at Seattle and Arizona coming up. We're looking at a bye week in week 6. And then we're looking at Indianapolis. We're looking at Chicago, who have finally installed Justin Fields as the starter. And if you watch the press conference with Matt Nagy, he's kind of saying what he didn't want to say at first, which is like, I'm really excited about what Justin Fields is going to be able to do. We didn't know he could do that. It's like, you knew, dude. You just didn't want to say it. You're looking at a 49ers team who's coming up on a very tough stretch of games outside of that 2-0. And if Jimmy falters at all, I mean, you're going to have to really look hard. Do we put Trey in here? Because you're losing out on development time for him. First-round quarterbacks traditionally play. There was a stat that came out. Adam Schefter retweeted it. I know Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport retweeted it. Other than Mahomes, like, these quarterbacks are playing. And you have to live by the mistakes and die by the mistakes. The upside for Trey Lance is just, it's readily apparent. So if you're not going to go 5, 6, 7-0, what are we doing at this point?
Yeah, a whole lot of time wasted, unfortunately. I just think that there was a question in here, and it might have been from Melissa asking if, or it might have been actually from, oh gosh, I lost it. I'm sorry, I lost your question, but they were asking if we should wait until Jacksonville game to play Trey just because it's a more favorable matchup. I don't think it's worth waiting. If you're going to do it, you need to do it as soon as the moment is, because after that week is gone and you have a tough matchup, they're not all going to be that favorable from there on. So
right, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, if you put it on a harder game, maybe it's like, okay, this game was hard and he kind of struggled, but at least we know Jacksonville will be easier, versus we put him in against Jacksonville and maybe the next game is like harder. Which way is the way to go? You don't really know. You just got to kind of play it by ear and see what the best situation is going forward. I just think that, we're past the 2-0 stage. We got to 2-0. That's fantastic. Depending on what happens with the Packers is really going to inform how Kyle Shanahan views his quarterback competition going forward. Because if Jimmy is not going to be the one that's like winning games and you're in danger of losing games and not making the playoffs or not, being that number 1 seed, at that point, you got to ask yourself, we spent all this capital on Trey Lance. Is it worth it to play Jimmy Garoppolo maybe just to make a wild card? Is that really worth it? Or do we want to, hey, let's get Trey Lance some development? Maybe it costs us a game or two. Maybe Trey Lance can make some beautiful plays. Maybe he's going to make some boneheaded mistakes like all rookies do. But at the same time, you're getting him real game action, which after 2020, when he only played 1 game at the beginning of the season, that's something that he desperately needs. And I think that would behoove the team in a long-term direction to maybe prep him to get ready. And, I think that this would be a moot point if the running back room hadn't taken such a rash of injuries. And it's ironic that when we talk about our season preview, when we were talking before the season even started, hey, what are like the strongest areas of the 49ers? And it's like defensive line, running back. And now it seems like the running back room is just decimated by injuries. So now it's on Jimmy Garoppolo to kind of, prop up the running game a little bit. And we're going to see if he's able to do that. If he's not, then it's, maybe you step aside and Trey Lance is the guy, because one thing that I know, Trey Lance is going to make mistakes in the passing game, but one thing that Trey Lance definitely can do is supplement that running game with the RPO stuff, with his ability athletically to get outside of the pocket and run those read options. At the very least, Trey Lance is going to supplement that running game.
It's the spark that this team has needed plenty of time, specifically last week. It's not going to be it wasn't the first, not going to be the last. real quick, I didn't get to get into all of the injury updates, so let's get into them real quick. The biggest one, I believe, in my opinion, was Emmanuel Mosley. Practice in the portion I was open to the media. Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, they also practiced. You talked about Trey Sermon was out of that blue concussion protocol non-contact jersey, so he practiced as well. That's very exciting. Elijah Mitchell also practiced. Out of all of these, Matt, which in your opinion is most important that they play on Sunday night?
I think the defensive side of the ball will take care of itself. I think that Kinlaw is going to be a very important piece. Mosley is going to be a very important piece. I didn't think Josh Norman did bad against the Eagles. I know I wasn't able to talk about it. I thought that he did pretty well. I thought that the holding call against him in the first quarter on that third down was pretty weak. If you ask me, I thought it was, It's one of those ones that we always complained about as 49er fans where we're just like, come on. Like, why are the refs calling this against us? We don't get these calls. I thought he played pretty well for the most part. I thought that Diamador Lenore did a fantastic job. I know people are saying he got burnt toast on that 91-yarder. To me, it looked like he stumbled, which happens to everybody occasionally, right? Like you lose your feet or something like that. But overall, I thought he did a fantastic job. You take that one play away, and one of the most impressive things was something that they talked about on the broadcast, and it was on that touchdown catch to, I think it was Rager who caught the touchdown pass, but he had actually, Diamador had kind of pushed him towards the sideline, and he had the presence of mind to know Rager stepped out of bounds, so he can't catch this pass. And he kind of let up his coverage because he had the awareness to kind of, know, hey, this receiver definitely stepped out. And to me, for a rookie to have that awareness to be like, hey, that's going to be an illegal touch, that to me is impressive. I've been super impressed with Diamador Lenore. So, Mosley being back would be definitely a luxury. I think to me, Trey Sermon is going to be one of the big things. I mean, he had that one carry. It was like 8 yards. He got his head pinballed everywhere. I don't know what the actual injury designation was. I know they called it a concussion at first, but then there were conflicting reports saying, oh, it wasn't actually a concussion. It was something else. If he's out of concussion protocol and he can carry the load, I think that he's going to contribute greatly. I've always been high on Trey Sermon. I think that having a strong running game is going to really help Jimmy Garoppolo. Hasty and perhaps Mitchell are not going to play. So you're looking at your top two backs being Trey Sermon and Kerryon Johnson. You got to be ready to go with those guys, and you have to take the load off of Jimmy Garoppolo. If the defense can key in on Jimmy Garoppolo passing, they're going to swallow that middle of the field, and they're not going to let Jimmy do anything inside the hashes to beat them. So you need that threat of the run to really pull the linebackers forward and give Jimmy those open areas over the middle of the field to throw. So for me, Trey Sermon is the most important in terms of this.
Okay, I like that. If I had to say, it's tough, but I agree with you, by the way, and I said this on the recap. I thought Josh Norman played well. I thought he had some tic-tac calls on him. The fact that you didn't hear him for the rest of the game is very important. Kind of speaks to how he played. Mosley is up there, but I got to go with Kinlaw because we saw the drastic difference in run defense in week 1 and week 2 when Kinlaw was out versus when he was in. Plus, he had that field goal block. He's just such a beast at what he does and eats up those men. Eats up those offensive linemen. So I just think that that's so vital for the 49ers defense. I would give the edge to Kinlaw.
I'm not disputing that. I just think because he played last week, it's a little bit of like so playing kind of thing. He's less of a question, guys. And so for me, it's more Trey Sermon.
That's fair.
And, Colley's saying, hey, the team is trying to make a deep playoff run. As long as Jimmy's winning, Jimmy G will be the starter. Pulling for Jimmy G. It's not the pure indicator, but he's riding with Jimmy G while he wins. Again, like I said, this is everybody kind of expected 49ers fans. We all looked at the schedule and go, oh, they're 2-0 after 2 weeks. Green Bay is going to be really the first game that we really have to worry about. And so that's why I think that this game is so critical, particularly with the running back injuries, because Jimmy's going to have to really be at the top of his game to really score those points. You can't just rely on your defense to kind of bail you out. The way we beat the Packers in 2019 in both of those games was effective running game. So if you don't have those things, it's going to be on Jimmy to be able to find those open passing lanes. And from what I've seen from the charts we've thrown up, what he did against the Eagles in week 2, I'm not super impressed by Jimmy right now. Yeah. And so I need him to be able to do it. Otherwise, again, you start punching the clock and you start counting down to Trey Lance time. And if Jimmy doesn't do his job this game, I would expect it to kind of accelerate that clock. It's already on Kyle's mind. I mean, I definitely think that, Kyle is thinking about it. Hey, we got to get Trey in there at some point. But if Jimmy starts to struggle, all of a sudden that timetable gets a little shorter, Also, before I throw it back to you for your response, I just want to say thank you guys. The move has went pretty well. I'm kind of settling in. It'll take a little bit more. I want to put some stuff behind me. There's going to be like some shelving and some jerseys posted at some point or another. It's still pretty new, so the space is going to change, but I appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah. Congrats on the move. Glad it went well. As far as the Jimmy Colley's question, not pulling him just because the team is winning, I don't know, man. They are 2-0, like Matt said. That doesn't come as a shock to anyone, but the way that they won last week was concerning. You can say week 1, whatever flukes happened, that's fine. But the lack of offense, and I understand Philadelphia has a tough defensive front, and that could be hard to move against. However, even the balls that we saw come out of Jimmy, especially early on, were ugly. Were very, very ugly. And if that continues, if we get just barely enough from Jimmy, I guarantee people outside of the locker room won't be the only one saying, hey, this guy that we just gave up a fortune to get, is he better than just barely getting there? Just barely enough? Can he do just a little more?
Yeah. I don't know. And, it's one thing like, okay, the defensive line is giving you a little bit of problems or whatever, but they didn't get a first down until the second quarter. Their first 3 drives were 3 straight 3-and-outs. That's just not good enough. And so to me, like, I know Green Bay's defense is not what Philadelphia's defense is going to be. I know that, the 49ers should be able to move the ball a little bit better against Green Bay, but I mean, again, what are you getting? Are you getting week 1 against Detroit where you're taking advantage of inferior competition and Jimmy G's going out there against a not so great defense and taking advantage? Or is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo struggling and overthrowing people like Sanu, overthrowing people like Ayuk, throwing the ball out of bounds to Trent Sherfield, throwing it on the back knee of Kyle Juszczyk on a fullback screen? I mean, these are things that are independent of the defensive line. I mean, the defensive line did not force Jimmy to overthrow that pass to Mohamed Sanu on the outside. They were not the ones that forced Jimmy to throw that out route against the secondary that was almost picked off because he doesn't have any zip on the outside numbers. So to me, it's Jimmy Garoppolo has to work the middle of the field. If the running game's not supporting him and the defense takes it away, what are we left with? And that's the real question going forward. If that is all that Jimmy Garoppolo is afforded by this Green Bay defense is throws outside the numbers, I think we're going to have a real problem on our hands.
Yeah, this is a really interesting comment from Taryn. This is not a Super Bowl roster. Hate to burst everyone's bubble. If Kyle thought he could win with Jimmy, then Trey wouldn't be on this team. That second half, that last sentence, I think speaks volume because it's true. I mean, if Jimmy, there were no question marks around, they wouldn't have traded up all and given up all those first round picks to get Trey Lance. So Kyle certainly isn't sold.
No, he's not sold, but I disagree that this isn't a Super Bowl roster. Other than Tampa Bay, I don't see a roster that's better than the 49ers. Seattle's defense is trash. Arizona's defense is trash. Green Bay's defense is trash. the one thing that separates the 49ers from those other teams in our division is that the 49ers defense is really pretty good. The Rams defense is nothing to write home about. They give 24 points to Carson Wentz. So it's up to the offense to keep up with the defense. If they can do that, then the 49ers are definitely a Super Bowl roster. I mean, even Tampa Bay's defense is not great. They give up 25 points to Atlanta after they had given up a ton of points to the Dallas Cowboys. So other than the 49ers, it seems like a lot of these teams are just, in these boat races. Kansas City's another team that's just like giving up a ton of points. So the 49ers, at the very least, I know they gave 33 to the Lions, but if you really look at the circumstances of that game, there were some weird, funky things going on. Again, the bounced offside or the bounced onside kick to George Kittle, the fumble by Deebo Samuel, that just, victim of circumstance allows you to give them more points. But, I'm not impressed by a lot of these other teams, Arizona escaped by the grace of another terrible Vikings kicker. That's cool. Seattle gave up a huge lead in the second half to Tennessee and just lost the plot. Again, inside the division, there's not a lot of teams that I'm looking at and go, oh, they're better than the 49ers. Tampa is the one team that I can make an argument for that has a better overall roster than the 49ers. But in the NFC, at least, the 49ers are right there.
Okay. I like it. Guys, while we have you here, obviously we have a new sponsor. I'm going to take a quick second to shout out to our sponsors. We'll save the newest for last. But first of all, shout out to Acre Gold. Matt calls it my gold stamp. You can get gold.
Get the envelopes ready.
Yes, you can get gold for as little as $50 a month. I just got a notification yesterday that my second gold bar with them will be shipped out shortly. So very, very soon I will have my second.
Are you
gold
sending that
bar.
to me?
No, sir. You can get your own with the link in our bio and support the channel. So link in the description. Acre Gold. Shout out to Acre Gold. We love Acre Gold. Brandon Gold Center podcast. Perfect.
Do it. So can everybody else. Support the channel.
Exactly. And shout out to 81 by Terrell Owens. 81vino.com. Enter code Hive. You get 10% off. And that'll also get you free shipping on 2 or more bottles. Terrell Owens started his own wine. 81vino.com. Thank you very much. Also, our merch store, shop49ershive.com. Enter code RGS15 for 50% off your entire purchase. Shop49ershive.com. We got apparel. We got tumblers. We got prints, portraits like the one of Trey Lance on draft night behind me. We got a bunch of stuff. Go check out our merch store. We should have another 1 or 2 designs coming shortly. And now our newest sponsor, MyBookie. We are so excited to work with MyBookie tonight. You guys just missed it, but they had a very, very exciting promotion that I want to tell you guys about. If you go to mybookie.ag, you would have been able to get in on the UFC First Blood promotion. And they have this very cool new promo where when any fighter bleeds, you guys get paid. The second you guys see blood, you win. The bet was centered around 5 main card fights, including 2 title fights. So the Octagon did not stay dry for long. You guys can take advantage of the opportunity to make some easy money with MyBookie, and they will have it again. They also have a bunch of NFL promos. So go to mybookie.ag, enter our promo code Hive, as in 49ers Hive. Start off with a double deposit bonus. That's promo code Hive, and double your money so you guys could double your winnings with MyBookie. And that's not all. As soon as you guys put in that first deposit, this is for all new customers. If you deposit $10, they'll match you $10. If you put in $1,000, they'll match you $1,000, all the way up to $1,000. If you make your first deposit now with code Hive, you'll also get a free entry into MyBookie's $50,000 NFL Survivor Pool, $50,000. So that's a double deposit bonus, free money on UFC, and a free shot at $50K. It's what I call a winning season, guys. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Thanks, MyBookie, for sponsoring. We really appreciate the companies that show love to 49ers Hive. Go support our companies so that you guys can in turn support us. Thank you guys. So let's get right on to it, Matt.
Yeah, no, hey, absolutely. Before we move on, man, my boogie, as soon as I heard they were doing the blood rule and I knew there was a Diaz on the card, I laid money down on that bad boy immediately. And it's paid dividends for me. So everybody go to mybookie.ag, code 49ers Hive. Well, HIVE Hive. Thank you guys.
Yep, it's on the screen. Yeah. All right, so let's get into this. Let's get some predictions out, Matt, so the people can get to sleep. It's Saturday night. I know you guys are probably up late, especially those on the East Coast. Appreciate you guys tuning in for us. It's my fiance's kind of birthday's on Monday, so we're celebrating it. So we had to do a little later, but that's all right. Matt, offensive and then defensive MVP and then final score predictions. Why don't you go ahead and take it away with your offensive MVP?
Offensive MVP, I'm going to go George Kittle. I think he finally gets his due. He's been a little bit quiet. I know he was 4 for 78 in week 1. A lot less in week 2. I know the big thing that everybody's like throwing around on social media is about how he laughs after he pancakes people. But we really don't want George Kittle to be a glorified blocker. I think, bar none, overall, at least all around in terms of skills, is the best tight end in the NFL. He blocks better than Kelsey. He's a better receiver than any other good blocking tight end. I think he's the best in the business, and I don't think Green Bay has anybody to really cover him. So for my money, I think Kittle's going to go, I'm going to say 7 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, defensive MVP, again, we're getting closer each week. Week 1, I said Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. He had 1 sack. Week 2, I said Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. He had 2 sacks. Third time's the charm. I'm going to go with Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble.
All right. I love it. Thank you, Melissa. I'll let her know that you're wishing her a happy early birthday. Appreciate you guys. All right. Offensive MVP. This is tough, man. I think first week I did Ayuk. Last week I went with Debo, who I think got it. I mean, it was tough.
Kind of proved you right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else had as good of a game as Debo. I agree with you, Matt. I think they're going to do their best to take Debo out of the game. I'm going to go with Jimmy, man. I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's undefeated on Sunday night. That's me knocking on wood, so don't come at me if he doesn't play well. However, I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he understands the moment. He understands the situation. He understands all of that. And I think he's going to come out. And even if he plays conservatively, which is what I've seen a lot of people kind of make an argument as to why he's not getting Ayuk as involved, because he's not forcing the ball down the field to prevent those mistakes where he misses a linebacker right in the field of vision or whatever the case may be. He's going for the easier passes just to be safe. I'm going to go with Jimmy. And I don't think you gave a stat prediction, did you?
I gave a stat prediction for both, yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed the first one.
I said 7 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown for Kittle, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble for Bosa.
Okay, I remember Bosa. Okay, so Jimmy, I'm going to say he's going to be 24 for 31, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And as far as defensive MVP, man, that's tough. There's so many big players. You went with Bosa. I'm going to flip it over to the other end. I'm going to say D Ford, maybe with all of the attention on the left side of the line and Nick Bosa getting, all of the attention because they're going to be without their first and second string left tackle. Green Bay does some magic to maybe get a back over there to chip him. I don't know. I think D Ford's going to come out and have a good game. And I'm going to say 2 sacks from D Ford.
All right. Hey, you know what? I like it. I think overall, the 49ers are going to come out, and I expect them to dominate. I've been pretty conservative on the 49ers, but, man, I think this is the week, especially with the 94 throwbacks. They're going to come out super pumped, man. Look good, feel good, play good. I mean, and those jerseys are just chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah, I agree, man. They're beautiful. I'm so excited to see them. All right, wrapping it up before we take a couple questions. Final score prediction, Matt. What do you got for us?
I'm going to say 49ers 34, Packers 20.
Wow, okay. That's a big win.
2-touchdown win.
Wow. Okay. The line's only 3 points, but
I know the line's only 3 points, and I bet the line, and I've been, I don't know. I feel like I've been on the conservative side both times. I think this time I don't know. I have a feeling. I have a feeling about the 49ers, man. I just don't think the Packers match up well with the 49ers at all.
Okay. I like it. I'm going to say 34-21 Niners.
That's like the same score, brother. You said one extra than me.
I'm different. It's like Price is Right. Price is Right.
Right? You went $1 over.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know. I like the score. I think that's what's going to be something similar to that. Guys, drop your final score predictions in the comments, either in the live chat or in the comments of the video. You can also tweet them at us. If you get the final score prediction right, we'll send you some free merch. It's always something fun that we do here just to get you guys more involved. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to send them in. There were a couple here, Matt, that I want to ask you before in case we don't get any. Does Trey Sermon run away with running back 1? I think I saw Hung Fat ask this earlier. Does he run away with that starting back role after this week?
It's gonna depend on what that injury actually was. Again, I've heard conflicting reports. It was a concussion. It wasn't. Depending on what that was, that's really gonna inform what happens. I think that Mostert's gonna be out for a while. Elijah Mitchell's coming back from his shoulder. It's definitely an opportunity for Trey Sermon to insert himself into a more prominent role. What he does with that remains to be seen. I'd like to see him stay healthy and really kind of take over that role. I think that he is fully capable of doing it. We just need to see it. That's the thing. I think, again, his not dressing week 1 and his limited action week 2 until he got that first carry and got injured, I think that was more a product of breaking team rules on a road trip. They talked a lot about learning to be a professional. That included Ayuk. So I think there was something going on that the team's not going to talk about, maybe not even this entire season into next season. But, if he's the healthy back going forward in terms of being the lead back, it's very well possible that he kind of takes over that spot.
All right. I like it. I agree, but it's kind of like the lead back, starting back doesn't mean much in a Kyle Shanahan offense just because of how much he interchanges them. So maybe the name, yes, he might earn that role, but it doesn't mean much because you saw how much they got interchanged. I know Mostert got hurt week 1, but it seemed like Elijah Mitchell was going to be a big part of the game plan going in as it was. Maybe it would have been Trey Sermon prior to whatever happened to week 1, but still. And also, I saw another question in here earlier.
Dude, if they would have went, I know they went Kerryon Johnson, but would you have rather them gone Kerryon Johnson or maybe pull Frank Gore off the pile?
Dude, I mean, I would have wanted to have seen it either way. So, yeah, definitely call up Frank. He said he would have, right? I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine getting Frank Gore for 2021, doing like a deep playoff run, a.k.a. a Super Bowl run with Frank Gore back on the team. And then he could retire and go box like he's apparently going to do. So.
Yeah. Melissa's asking, did Aziz steal Dre's spot?
I don't think so. I think Dre is too physically talented. Aziz Al-Shaair is a great third linebacker to have, but to say that he's significantly better than Dre Greenlaw, I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. He's good though, and he's good at what the 49ers ask him to do. Yeah. But I think if you would have seen him over 17 games at that linebacker 2 spot, some people might start to notice his downsides a little more than they do now in limited roles. Hung Fab with the super chat. 31-13 SF. Let's go, guys. Thank you.
Love it. Good score prediction.
There's a bunch of good score predictions in here. Taryn, 28-24. He thinks, Packers winning. Okay. He's got us losing. Wow.
If the Packers win, start to look for Jimmy Garoppolo to maybe lose his grip on that job.
Yeah. Melissa, 37-8 again. 49ers win.
Wow, that's a powerful 49ers win.
Kali, 37-23. I love it. Jesse says we're going to win 27-20. That's a definitive statement. I like it. Melissa asks, when do we see Ambry step up?
We got to see Ambry dress because he didn't play in week 2.
Ted said the same thing. Yep.
There you go, Ted. Good stuff. Thinking alike.
Yep, I agree. They need to ask him.
It makes me embarrassed that I stuck up for him after the draft. I was really excited about Ambry Thomas, my Michigan guy, who played in 2019 but opted out of 2020. And I'm like, oh, he's going to be good, press man, blah, blah, blah. And he's just not very good.
Yeah. It's maybe he's just taking that learning curve a little slower than guys like Diamador Lenore, who's looking very good. Very, very
That's
good.
what I think it is.
Yeah. Melissa added Josh Norman and Diamador Lenore, my guys at corner. Love them. Plus, no need to rush E-Man. Well,
yeah, I think that Emmanuel's going to play, though, this week.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Yeah. Maybe get him out there conservatively. But, if he's ready to go, get him out there. Because Emmanuel Mosley, with Jason Verrett out for the season, Emmanuel Mosley is the best corner on the team, not named K'Wan Williams.
Yep, I agree. Taryn added, good question, Melissa. Thomas said he was going to let his play do the talking, but he hasn't done it yet. Not yet. Ted suggested maybe he needs to bulk up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think DJ Jones has earned more than 1 year yet?
He's just a rotational guy. I know we all love him, but again, how much better is he than somebody we could potentially find on the market as a replacement? When you're looking at the 49ers defensive line, I mean, think about the fact that we got Maurice Hurst and Arden Key as essentially just Raiders cast-offs. And that's not talking about, somebody like Samson Ebicam, which we signed in the offseason, which is not talking about, Contavia Street, who we still have on the roster. There's just so many different things that DJ Jones is really nice. And I know we all love him as a 49er because he just plays hustle. He represents stuff that we want, the culture that we want the team to be. But again, I can't fall in love with the players' names and who they are. If DJ Jones is a casualty of the cap or not having a spot on this team, that kind of sucks. But at the same time, I don't think that he's irreplaceable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I agree. Yeah, and Ted said it. He's injury. I would say injury prone. He's injured a lot though, and it's unfortunate because we've seen him play really well for some short stints, and I would like to see more, but not yet. I don't think he's proved that. All right, last question from Melissa. Do we finally see Eric only inside because I hate him outside?
I kind of hate him outside too, to be honest. I think he's more effective when he's, again, if you stick him right next to Nick Bosa, he's super effective. It's just when you ask him to do stuff on an island by himself that he's not going to be nearly as productive as he would be otherwise.
Yep.
So, especially in this game where they're on their, third string left tackle, whoever that's going to be, they're probably going to swing over the right tackle and then use a swing tackle to play right tackle. Maybe. I don't know. But whoever Nick Bosa's going against, I mean, stick Eric right next to him and Eric's going to be productive.
Yep, I love that. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Make sure you guys join us. Are we doing a live show after the game tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll be live after the game.
I know,
guys.
I'm down.
All right, let's do it. We'll be live after the game. Come check it out. Hopefully, we're celebrating another Niners win and then improving to 3-0. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Those on the East Coast, thank you for staying up late. Those on the West Coast, appreciate you guys. Hopefully, you guys have a fantastic Saturday night. That's going to do it for this episode of the Rango Center podcast. Make sure you guys head over to mybookie.ag. Use promo code Hive to get a 100% deposit match for all new customers with your first deposit up to $1,000.
Thank you, as always, for joining us. Follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever else you can find us. We're all over the interwebs, and we love having you with us. Tomorrow night, NBC, primetime, 49ers, Packers. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be back here tomorrow night breaking down all of the action. We love having you here as always. So until then, until next time, go Niners.